Well, guys, it isn't coming home. Spain absolutely deserved to win that game. And I'm not going to sit here and make any argument against that because, in every aspect, Spain were the better side today. And they've been the best team in the tournament. Going into the tournament, not many people mentioned Spain as one of the absolute favourites. Of course, they're always going to be up there. But most of the focus was France, England, funnily enough, even though we've been very underwhelming in the tournament. Obviously, Germany having the home advantage, but Spain kind of snuck up out of nowhere almost with a very young squad. I mean, you look at their team they've put up today, and honestly, I think you could make an argument it really isn't the strongest squad in the tournament, but they have played as a team, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. I mean, in a final, anything can happen. It doesn't matter about form. It doesn't matter about who's on the pitch. It's about what you do on the day. And ultimately, they were better in every single way. So, whilst a lot of the reviews you watch after the game, if you're watching a few of them, I think a lot of the focus will be on England and what England did wrong. But I think it's very important to realize that sometimes you need to just give it to the opponent. Well, in my case, give it to the opponent because they were just so good. And it wasn't even their best game, by the way. Spain have played better in this tournament. So maybe that's because it's a final. There's a lot of pressure. You've got players like Yamal, of course. He's only just turned 17 and he's playing in a game this big. And Mainu as well. I thought he was out of his depth a little bit. Just couldn't get himself in the game. And maybe that's just because of the occasion. But I want to focus on Spain at first, and then we'll go into my thoughts on England. As I said, Spain have been the best team in this tournament. Their left side and their right side, two of the most exciting players from the tournament, records being smashed. Yamal is now the youngest player to contribute in a international final ever since Pele, I believe. Youngest player to start. I mean, he's got 4 assists, I believe. Just so you know, the record amount of assists in Euros history is Cristiano Ronaldo with 7, I believe. 7. And he has played in 6 tournaments. Yamal in his first tournament, 4. He's going to be a record breaker in the next tournament, most likely. And it wouldn't surprise me because they have got so many good young players coming through that Spain will be a force to be reckoned with for tournaments to come. But Williams, I'm going to give him a mention as well. He got the first half goal. Was it? Actually, no, it wasn't in the first half, was it? Early in the second half. And what a finish. Really composed. And people forget, just because Yamal was 16 and now 17, Williams is only 21, 22. He's still a very young player as well. But the most impressive thing for me was actually the balance between Cucurella and Williams. They had a really good partnership down that left side, and it completely exposed Saka, Walker, Stones, and we'll get onto that later. I think another thing that a lot of people aren't going to be talking about is Laporte and Lenormand. He used to be French. He's now Spanish, okay? And their goalkeeper as well, Unai Simon, very, very good. And Carvajal, of course, he's won everything in football. He's always Mr. Reliable. But, you know, I think, and rightly so, Spain have somewhat been given fair criticism over the tournament for not defending particularly well. But today, they were a lot better. And, you know, another thing that's maybe going to go under the radar a little bit just because they ended up winning anyway. But Rodri coming off at half time, I mean, any team losing their absolute talisman in midfield, that's a huge blow. And for them to just carry on as if it didn't happen with Zubimendi coming in. I know Zubimendi's been linked with Arsenal for a few years now. That was a pretty good audition, if I must say so myself. But he just slotted in like nothing. And Fabian Ruiz, fantastic player, almost been one of the best players in the tournament. And Morata, whilst he isn't a prolific goal scorer, technically he has scored a lot of goals for Spain. I do understand that. But it does feel like he's just there to be a nuisance and be annoying, and he does that very well. He reminds me of, well, Nunez reminds me of Morata. Just really annoying. But again, another thing that won't get many mentions, at least from England fans, because not many people will know Luis de la Fuente. What an incredible job he's done as well. Spain were just a team. There's individual talent, but they were a team. And, you know, watching France in this tournament, especially, and one or two other teams, it does look like a bunch of great individual players just thrown in, and good luck. And that's what it looked like, I think, for England for the majority of our games in this tournament. We've got so many great players, but they're just not gelling and doing much as a team until we played the Netherlands, which obviously was a much better performance. And I'm not going to say we were absolutely shocking today, and I'm not going to say that we necessarily set up wrong or that Southgate got substitutions wrong, because do you know what? He didn't. Southgate did, I think, a really good job of at least trying to manage the game today. We had an early change. We had ultimately our only goal scorer of the game come on as well. And there was some system changes to at least try to influence the game and get us up the pitch and do a little bit more. But ultimately, like I said at the start, Spain were just too good. Looking at these stats, I know stats don't tell the whole story, but they give you a snapshot. This is very fitting of what happened. Spain dominated the ball. They had better chances. They could have had 3 or 4 goals. Yamal could have had a hat-trick, and yeah, we'd be talking about a completely different result if it wasn't for Pickford. They were really impressive. And, you know, whilst they do have quite a few older players potentially on the way out, they've got so many great young players coming through, and the likes of Gavi and Pedri both injured. You know, they're both going to come in for the World Cup in 2 years. And yeah, Spain are going to be a really good nation, as they always have been for many years. But now, let's talk England. This right side here, including my star boy Saka, who I have to absolutely dig him out for this, because ultimately he hasn't done a good enough job tracking back today to help Walker out. And whilst it's not Saka's job day to day for Arsenal, he's one of our most attacking players. Unfortunately, with England, he has needed to do a bit more of a different style of wing play, let's say. He is absolutely needing to get back and help out, because for whatever reason, Stones and Walker turned into awful players. When City were pushing to win the title, to steal it from Arsenal, Walker and Stones, brilliant, you know, no problems. But then as soon as they put on an England shirt, they play like that. And, you know, Mainu was struggling for sure, and Rice was struggling. They got absolutely outclassed by Rodri, Ruiz, and then Zubimendi and Olmo. And it had to be a lot better down our right side if we had any chance of stopping Cucurella, Williams. Walker, for me, had one of the worst games I've ever seen in sheer incompetence and just falling asleep. I don't understand it, though. He's such a reliable player. And, you know, I'm not putting all the blame on Saka, but he should be aware of secondary runs. You know, if you think to Williams' goal, the first goal that Spain scored, Walker he's basically caught between two minds. He's got to close down his nearest man, but then he's got someone in behind, and that's where you would like to see someone like Saka get back. And look, not all of you are Arsenal fans, not all of you watch Arsenal, but Saka does do that for Arsenal. He does often contribute defensively, and we saw it a lot with Trossard on the other wing. We've seen Saka do this, but for whatever reason, he wasn't doing that today, and that is going to be on him. He needed to get back and help out. And Rice, for whatever reason as well, because he can play as a DM on his own, for sure, but he couldn't today, and I think that's because we just didn't have the ball enough. He can't play in two positions when we don't have the ball. He looked completely out of it. It wasn't the Declan Rice that we see week in, week out in the Premier League. Foden, he might as well have not been on the pitch today. Harry Kane, I know he scored 3 goals, 2 penalties and a tap-in, but I mean, what a terrible tournament from him. And I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I may have laughed just a teeny bit when the camera cut to Harry Kane just before the end of the game, and you could just see it on his face. He's just like, still no trophy? What have I got to do? The reality is, Harry Kane, mate, you've got to do better than what you gave us. That was shocking. You're our captain. Just offered nothing. Absolutely nothing. The first few games, he basically played as a DM, and then in the last few games, no runs in behind. He kind of just walked up and down in between the defenders and tried. He got those penalty goals and a tap in, though. it's difficult to criticise when he's your top scorer, but I mean, realistically, he was one of our worst players in the tournament. Bellingham had moments in this tournament, but realistically, we saw nothing that we would have come to expect after watching him play for Madrid this season. In terms of good performances, I want to give a shout out to Shaw. Luke Shaw hasn't played football in 5 months, and he's thrown into an international tournament, thrown into the final for his first start, and he was brilliant. He kept Yamal pretty quiet most of the time. Obviously, Yamal is one of those really tricky players. He still made chances and had chances himself, but I thought Shaw was good. I think Pickford was good. He had a really strong tournament and, of course, was a penalty shootout hero for us. Guehi, really impressive, and no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but they're going to struggle to keep hold of him if he continues to play like he did today. Ollie Watkins came on and I thought really elevated our attack. It was nice just to see some movement again, just getting in behind. Loved that. And Cole Palmer, I mean, what a moment. He'll never forget that. It's just such a shame that ultimately his goal meant nothing. And it did take a little deflection, but it was such an amazing moment. And whilst he's a Chelsea player and he's killing it for Chelsea, and that's annoying, I hope he kills it for England. What an incredible goal. And just a shame we didn't see more of him. I don't know where we would have played him, but I would have done anything now to go back and just drop Foden and put Palmer in. I mean, I don't think Foden did enough in this tournament, and Tone barely got any moments to do anything. So, unfortunately, he couldn't really contribute. But the reality is, guys, we shouldn't have won this tournament, and we rightly didn't in the end. Spain deserved to win this tournament. They've now won it a record 4 times, 3 times since the 2000s began. So fair play to Spain. And, you know, a lot of neutrals or at least non-England fans around the world will be celebrating, because it would have been pretty shocking for England to actually come away with a win in this tournament when we haven't even been one of the best teams, far from it. So I won't go to bed and be really sad about this tonight. I'm just disappointed. And of course, it would have been amazing, but we go again in 2 years. But that brings me on to the final topic of this review. This man right here, he has got to go. There were reports over the last few days that he might be signing an extension regardless of the result today, but I think it's very clear now that we might need to do something different. And I've got nothing against him as a person and his man management skills, and he's created a great atmosphere and all of this lovely stuff. We're a great together team, friends, but the reality is we aren't winning when it matters. It's all well and good getting into quarters, semis, and 2 finals now, but he hasn't got us over the line. And I think a lot of people will agree with me now. He's had more than enough time, I think, to do his thing, to put his imprint on these players. And ultimately, he hasn't got us over the line. He still has a very successful time as England manager. And I don't think we'll look back and just think, oh, God, that was awful, wasn't it? I think there's going to be mixed feelings. There's going to be he was really great at getting the team to be together. I mean, for those of you who weren't watching 10, 15, 20 years ago when England were just... I mean, it didn't feel like a team at all. You had the Manchester United, the Arsenal, the Liverpool, the Chelsea rivalry. Players didn't seem to get on. Managers weren't able to do anything, really. And Southgate has been our most successful manager since '66, for sure. But, and I'm hoping he will be thinking this, I think it is time, with respect, Gareth Southgate, I think you walk away, you get yourself a fantastic job in the Premier League or another job in the future, maybe take a break, I don't know. But let's see someone else come in. You know, I would like to see, at least for the World Cup in 2 years, just some new, fresh ideas, because I think Southgate, whilst he recovered this tournament, his decisions were getting better. I think if there were another 5 games, we'd potentially continue to do better and better. But it almost felt a little bit too late in this tournament, because in the first few games, when you're trying to build momentum, that's so key. The group stage games, you want to be... Obviously, the priority is to win them and go through, and we were top of the group, but you want to be winning those games comfortably and building up morale, building up some consistency, and we weren't able to do that. And it felt like, genuinely, we only turned up in the semi-final. That's how it felt to me. And I just feel like we can't do that again. It's happened too many times now with Southgate, where it's taken a bit of time to really make the jump in a tournament where we play as good as we can. And he clearly isn't doing enough when it really counts in finals. We haven't had the hardest run-ins. We've been gifted some pretty nice draws over the years, and I'm just now itching for something new. I would love an Eddie Howe to come in, or I don't know if we're going to go with a foreign international manager. Maybe we get someone like a Klopp. I don't know. It's the thought of that is exciting, just to see something new, some fresh ideas. And with the players we've got, I have no doubt that we could play a much more fluid possession, tiki-taka style of football, and less of the concede and then only attack. But if we score, sit back and defend and hold, I just think that's probably enough now. So all the best to Gareth Southgate. If he stays, of course, I'll support the lads, but I can't help but feel like I'll be disappointed if he does. But that's it for Operation England. Operation Arsenal will be coming back in the next few weeks with pre-season games come in. And of course, if we make any large monumental signings, I'm sure I'll do some videos on that. Just a quick heads up though, guys, a massive week coming up on the channel. On Wednesday at 5 o'clock, you're going to want to be there. It's a big, big video, some exciting stuff, and I cannot wait to return to some normal content. Thank you for watching, guys, and we go again. World Cup in 2 years.